Welcome, everyone, to our Tuesday webinar on client acquisition strategy. I am super excited today to be talking with Mark Howells with Dakota Marketing. Thank you, Mark, for setting up this live stream so I can shoot my mouth off for an hour.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for. Definitely.
But no, in all seriousness, I'm super excited to be doing this with you today. When I talk to founders, probably the thing I hear most is, how do we get leads? We need more leads. We're just not able to. If we could get leads, we could, be doing better, right? And that's the hard part for the technical founders. And so today was exciting for me when you reached out to do this, because I think it's something that people struggle with, and really, really kind of you to be able to share this with the audience and kind of try and push them off in the right direction. So I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself, kind of, who you are, what you do, and how you came to be in this MSP niche like some of us here.
Yeah. So Mark Howells with Dakota Ridge Marketing, and I've been doing marketing actually now for 17 plus years,
Wow.
going from all different B2B, B2C, kind of run the full gambit, I'll say, of companies and everything under the sun. And it's been an end around kind of journey, I'll say, into the channel, where I started out in an accounting firm and they owned an MSP on the side. And so that's where I first saw kind of what it was to market for an MSP and for an IT company. And kind of, again, made a full end around back into the channel. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works. I tell people a lot of the time, I feel like my career in managed services has been kind of a tumble down the stairs. And so it doesn't seem like anyone ends up here purposefully, but we're all glad we're here. And once you are immersed in this community, it's truly a great place to be. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, I'm Jesse Miller. I'm the founder of Power PSA Consulting. We help MSPs build, scale, and profit from cybersecurity services specifically. And so, obviously saw there was a need in the industry for MSPs whose number one, clients were asking them for cybersecurity. And number two, there's a profit to be made there, but it's not necessarily the same blueprint as IT services. And so, again, providentially having some experience there through a lot of bumps and bruises, I'm bringing my playbook to bear for MSPs to be able to build out from really RevOps, where Mark leaves off, all the way through customer success, billing, and account management. So today we're going to try and give you a full picture of what a successful cybersecurity client acquisition strategy and client maintenance strategy looks like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I guess, Mark, I want to turn it over to you, because just so everyone knows, we're probably going to we're going to try and get through a lot of material. We're going to have some slides, and we're going to do some live mind mapping. I don't know how that's going to go.
Trial by fire.
Selfishly, I want to steal some of Mark's ideas for myself. So if you don't mind, Mark, but yeah, I'll turn it over to you, and let's get started.
Okay, sounds good. Let's jump in. Yeah, so a couple just real quick housekeeping items that we put together is just, please feel free to ask questions via the chat on whatever platform you're on. And we'll definitely, I'll be going first and kind of going through, as Jesse said, the marketing side of it, and then he'll jump in on his side. But we want to ask questions and, answer questions, and we'll have probably some Q&A time at the end. And then I know Jesse and I talked about sending the recording out after. And I think we had also talked about, please DM us, feel free, if you have questions after the fact. And also if you'd like that mind map that we're going to attempt to put together, we'd love to send that out. Yeah. So agenda wise, really just to go through these pieces, really we were thinking of this as, what could we do? What could we offer you guys if we were working inside your company, right? What would we come up with if you're saying, we need more clients, we need lead gen, what do we do now? So really going through kind of just one specific strategy front to back. As you see the pieces here, how do you get risk assessment leads, how to get them on the sales call, and then how to strategically handle those risk assessments, and of course how to convert them into monthly recurring revenue or just a paying client overall. So that's kind of the topic definition behind today.
Mark, would you call that an offer magnet there?
Yeah, definitely a lead
yeah,
magnet,
okay.
or offer, exactly. So
Okay.
that's what we're seeing as the risk assessment piece, and we see it in two forms. Just quickly to touch on that is either direct offers, meaning it's a call like a risk assessment, a consultation, something like that, or a supporting offer, something like a white paper, an ebook, et cetera, which is a little further away from obviously the sales call, but nurturing comes in there. So yeah, definitely.
Got it.
So to jump into things, the first thing I wanted to really touch on was just this idea of target audience, or ICP, ideal customer profile. This is so important to put together for everyone. A lot of companies have gone through this. They put together this piece, but if you haven't, have to do it. It's non-negotiable. What this is really just who are you going to target? This could be just a target audience piece that you put together, or an ICP, which is more around doing research related to your lifetime value. These are the clients that I really want to hit. This is who I really want, in the fold. And it's putting together those attributes of those accounts, of those prospective clients who you want as your most valuable customers. Why do you need it? There's tons of different reasons, but it helps to align your marketing and your sales teams, whether that's you, if you're, a very small business, a micro business, if you have a sales team, everyone needs to be going in the right direction, saying, this is who we're trying to reach. Did you have something, Jesse?
What are psychographics for our audience? I'm sure some people might be aware of that term. Like firmographics and psychographics. Those are probably the two that might be a fringe for some people.
Yeah. So, firmographics are going to be really, instead of a person, it's a company. So you're looking at, things like company size, number of employees, the industry type, are they, public versus private, any other company characteristics. That's what firmographics are. So you definitely want to go through those and lay those out. Geographics, pretty straightforward. Am I targeting just, Florida, or am I targeting the US, whatever it may be. Demographics, you do want to, and this is where personas come in here, but
got it.
You want to get into, is there income and education, something like that, really more around the person and the occupation. Are we, certain decision makers? Are we just trying to talk to the C-suite? Are we talking to, a CISO, something like that? And then psychographics, to answer your question, is really about the pain points and the achievement points, as well as, being able to talk to their level, going through, like, what are the values, what are the attitudes, the behaviors, what are their goals, what are their motivations, what are their frustrations. That's pretty much, to me, like the top one from a marketing perspective, just because that's where all the messaging comes in. So when you're doing messaging, whether it's on your website, on your, in this case, on the risk assessment landing page that we'll go through in a little bit, you need to have that messaging honed in with who you're talking to. This is one of the biggest sticking points that we see with our clients, is they're talking technical and their clients don't understand. That's number one big piece there. So, yep, that's what psychographics is in relation to that.
Got it. So maybe something like psychographics would be understanding the particular acronyms and technical or industry speak for the client that you're going after, and phrasing your messaging those types of terms.
That could be definitely a part of it. It's getting a little more, honestly, touchy-feely with this stage, because you really want to hone into, and this is another kind of knowledge gap that I see between just marketing and companies, is I think there's a misunderstanding of how much psychology goes into you trying to market your business. There was I think it was a Harvard professor that said 95% of all purchase decisions are from psychology, or subconscious, actually.
Right.
And so the psychographics gets into like, what are they really caring about? What are their motivations, their frustrations? And then out of that feed into your messaging.
Got it. So looking at a firm's maybe core values or mission and vision statement, would that give us some insight into potentially psychographics of the people working there?
It could, yes. Yeah, I think that's a good kind of, I'll say, step one, if you will.
Right.
We try to, when I'm showcasing this, we're kind of merging the company with the people, of course, and in a way, you can either separate them and say, here's our audience, and from a firmographic standpoint, and here's our personas who we're really trying to talk to. So I think you need to really look at both, because obviously we're B2B, but behind every company are just the people that make it up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
yep.
So let's say the psychographics of someone could be that they like whitewater rafting. Could that be something?
I guess if they're really, really into it, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Their value is, to go whitewater rafting, every
Yeah.
weekend and take time away from business. Sure.
Awesome.
That could be it. Yeah. Yeah. Or I guess motivation as to why they want to, have a good security posture is to keep their business continuity so they can keep whitewater rafting.
How do they see the world? I've heard somebody say psychographics is like, how do they see the world? And that was always helped me kind of put that in its proper category when I'm thinking about it.
Yep. No, I like it. Yeah. Yeah. From a marketing perspective, it's always to us, like, how are we going to achieve that conversion, those metrics, everything like that has to feed back to the messaging, which feeds back to what do they want to hear? What do they care about? Who are they?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. Moving on from this, once you guys have this put together, again, hopefully you've done something in relation to this. These are three different areas that I want to talk about from a kind of funnel or strategy perspective. Before I do this, I do want to make sure that, top right there, you see focused. Let's focus in on kind of the lower hanging fruit in this strategy. And this is not to say by any means that you shouldn't be doing marketing to educate people, because to me, from what I've seen, there's a huge knowledge gap between cybersecurity companies and their clients, which is hence why everyone has a job. But in this strategy, I want to focus in on people who have a pain point already. Or who have interest in the benefits based around the services that you provide. Again, we're thinking buyer journey. We talk a lot about this with clients who are like, well, these people, they don't even understand that they need, cybersecurity coverage or anything like that, or cyber insurance or whatever it may be. They don't even get it. Let's just talk today about kind of, again, the lower hanging fruit. They know they have a problem. They know they have a need. Maybe they have a provider already, or they don't. They're looking for it. So that's kind of the idea behind today. The three ways that we're going to get people in this strategy on the landing page, which I'll go through in a second, is one, to do pain point searching coverage, which is basically people are out there on Google, they're searching, their pain point and looking for a solution. Two, being content traffic CTAs. So content is important. It's a longer journey to get that ROI on doing content like blog posts, etc. But if you do it right, you can have call to actions and bring people into the landing page that way. And then three, being retargeted offers. All those people that are warm, they've heard of your company, they've been to your site, they've done something, let's retarget them as well. So that's really what I'm looking at from a strategy perspective here to bring in leads.
Elaborate a little bit more on retargeted offers.
Yeah. And we'll dive into it in a minute.
You will. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. But really the idea is just that it's, again, I've been marketing for a while, and I think cold is really hard to do. Cold marketing, cold outreach, all of that. People are so disillusioned these days from getting those emails, getting those LinkedIn messages in their inbox, and they're sponsored and they're like, another one. Let's go for the warm setup, the right strategy. So people are interested in what you're offering, have already heard of your company. And then if they don't become a lead there, retarget them. So that's kind of the idea behind it. So before we jump into kind of the tactical of how we're going to do this, first step is really offer development, right? What are we going to build out the messaging behind this. In this case, we're just talking about a risk assessment. I would start by doing a review of your risk assessment. I think, Jesse, you're going to kind of dive into this a little deeper on what are the aspects of this risk assessment, how can it be strategic. No matter what it is, I just want you to review it and kind of take a look at the pieces and pull from that. Second would be a keyword analysis. So whatever tool you're using, and the free one that you could go to is, of course, Google Ads. So they have a keyword planning tool. You can go in, you can just put in a landing page, a website page if you have like risk assessment on a page on your website, or you can start putting in some seed keywords and just pull information from this in order to use in your messaging and your ads. And then the last one there is something that we actually, it's kind of a proprietary thing we created. The FBBS method is, and this is really to try to close that gap between the technical speak and your clients or prospects, what they're trying to hear or what they should be hearing. So F is for feature, service, whatever it is that you're trying to sell, if you will, or market. In this case, it's a risk assessment. B is for benefits. What are the actual benefits of that? Which is normally where people stop. They say, okay, here's the service, here's the feature, here's the assessment, and these are the benefits of it. Done. You need to go further than that in the messaging and the marketing of this. So the second B is for business benefits. If you're talking to a small business owner, a C-suite, whatever it may be, they need to understand the outcomes of this rather than just what are the tangible benefits on day one. And then S is stories. As humans, we are, gravitate to stories about someone whitewater rafting and the amazing journey they had and everything like that. We gravitate to stories, to movies, everything like that. And so you need to convert that into a story, whether that's a case study, whether that's an example story of kind of what did this risk assessment lead to? That's when you're going to get the engagement. That's when you're going to get that excitement factor up about, oh, I want to do this thing. I need this risk assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And the next step after that is the landing page. And again, we're going through this to kind of showcase, here's a strategy you guys can put together to get more leads and clients. So once I have my offer developed, I want to create this landing page. Here's an example one on the right. It's a little small, but make sure the design and imagery are up to snuff. You don't want anyone trying to convert into a risk assessment going to this page and they're like, oh, geez, the branding here is horrible. The pictures are off. Use that messaging that we just developed from the previous step throughout. Counter those negatives and showcase the benefits of this, as we just talked about from the messaging, and really why do I do this? Why am I going to waste half an hour of my time on the phone with you? You've got to get through those benefits and get through the benefits and countering the negatives on this. Social proof, so important. People want to see that other people have done this. So if you have testimonials, quotes, a link to a case study, whatever it may be, of a client that went through the risk assessment, these were the findings, here are the outcomes, we're working with them now. Something like that to showcase that. Repeat one call to action throughout the page. Don't have multiple call to actions of contact us and or you could do this or you could do that. Keep it simple and straightforward, and have a low barrier form. And what that means is we've worked with clients who are like, set up a risk assessment, and then they have literally 10 different questions, 15 questions to prep for the call. Guess what? Each of those questions you ask is a barrier to entry. It's a barrier for that person to sign up for the call. So have a low barrier form. Multi-step forms is something you could look at in relation to that, though.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Just think about the low barrier. That's something that I stumbled upon with my web pages. Initially, I was asking for the chat for people to put in name and email, and I wasn't getting much at all. Now I don't even ask for a name. I'm saying, hey, just fire your question, and then somebody will get to you. Right. So and then you just ask them what their name is. And, so I found that gets better response, right? Because it's less steps and less info to give away. And it allows more of a immediate gratification, right? So
absolutely. And it is, like with everything marketing, it's kind of a game. I'll say you play
Yeah.
of trying to test out and find the best thing, because they've shown
Right.
that limited, form with low barriers is good, but also is good is the multi-step form with 1 to 2
Mm-hmm.
questions at a time,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
gamification, people have already gone 2 steps. You know what? They're going to fill
Right.
out the rest. They want to
Oh, that's a great
complete it.
point.
There's kind of a
Yeah.
psychology piece there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So once you've got that landing page together and built up, here we're back to our 3 kind of elements on the tactical side. So number 1, pain point searching. Put together a Google search campaign. Use the keyword planner. Find those top keywords. What we look for is high search volume, low competition, and low cost for the top of page position. And that's kind of and this totally depends on a ton of different variables, but that's really what we're looking for. Align the ads with the keywords, send the traffic to the landing page that you just built. One thing that a lot of people don't do is set up conversion tracking, and this is getting a little technical on this side of things, but basically you're seeing conversions through ads and saying, okay, yep, these people signed up for the risk assessment. But what you're also doing is technically showing Google, these are the people that we want. These are the people that have signed up and we're interested in for the call, and therefore optimize the campaigns for these people. And so it's kind of a nice little end around, if you will. And then last piece is just optimize as you go based on the search terms they're using. It's kind of a cool feature that if you haven't been in, set up your own Google Ads piece, you can actually see all the search terms that people are using to find your page. And you can say, nope, that's not a good one. Yes, that's a really good one, and kind of go through and optimize and use a red highlighter, if you will, going through all those. Second piece is the content traffic call to actions. So a lot of you may have a blog on your website already, have other content you're putting together. Make sure the topics are aligned with your offers. And this is something from a content strategy perspective I think a lot of people aren't doing, which is think about that offer when you're putting together your content, as opposed to kind of vice versa. So things like, topics could be how cybersecurity protects businesses from costly breaches, or how it helps businesses meet regulatory requirements, preventing IP theft, different things like that, leading into the risk assessment. And then this goes without saying, but make sure your SEO is on point, your imagery and CTAs are on point. Call to actions. Those are 3 things that it's, from a marketer's perspective, it's almost a little scary to see how many people are like, yeah, we're blogging, and it's just one big block of text. And it's not engaging, it's not drawing people in. There's no, again, imagery. The SEO behind it is horrible, so you're not getting found, and there's no call to actions. That's the most amazing thing to me. Your whole idea is to bring people to your site to view this content, showcase that thought leadership and that knowledge. And you're not saying, hey, you saw, all this information, why don't you now set up a risk assessment? So it's kind of a main piece there. I want to just one thing say ROI on this is longer, definitely. Like your pain point searching is going to be a much shorter ROI. That's why people, I think, kind of they feel like it's an evil must-have kind of need of the blogging side of things, but it takes so long. It is 5-6 months at least until you kind of really see that huge SEO uplift and start to get some risk assessments out of that. You can boost that through paid traffic. We do that sometimes. We set up a blog post kind of traffic push on Google to send more people over to that. So that's another option. Third piece is the retargeting. I know you asked about that earlier. We retarget through LinkedIn, and that's mainly just because we're working through small businesses a lot, and Google has 1,000 minimum per page. I think that's monthly visitors, which some small businesses don't have that kind of traffic level. So LinkedIn has a 300 minimum number of people who are going to in order to retarget to. So that's one thing. Just create an audience in LinkedIn. You basically set up a tag on your site, and it just tracks everyone going to your site or your different blog posts, and you can retarget and send ads to them. And then, yeah, just set up those ads, same messaging, same send them to the landing page idea that we've talked about already, and set up feed ads, for them. The cool thing is your conversion rates are going to be a lot higher because, again, they're warm. They've seen your information. They've seen, the services that you provide. They've read your content. They already know about your company as opposed to somebody who's never heard of you. And so the conversion rates are going to be a lot higher for something like that.
Got it.
And then kind of last but not least on my side of things is really how are we going from that marketing qualified lead, right? So we've set up the offer, we've created a landing page. We've got now 3 different channels, 3 different kind of pipelines coming into the landing page to get these leads. Great, we've got the leads. What do we do now? And this is just a quick plug, actually, as we're building out now and just launching this week a new kind of sales or appointment setting service, just because it's been such a pain point with our clients as we say, here's a lead. Great, what do we do now? And there's this huge kind of trough between the two, and we want to bridge that gap. And you may have had that in your own business where you've generated these marketing qualified leads, and then it's like, what do we do now? How do we get them on this risk assessment call? So big hole in the process. You need to fill that hole. Couple things here: use a CRM, to track the leads from those marketing campaigns. If you're more advanced, use lead scoring, which is basically technically looking at what they're doing, what pages are they going to, what content pieces are they opening up. If you're sending them emails, are they opening them, and scoring or quantifying based on those different actions. That can then show you these people are warmed up, they're ready for that call. So that's one thing. Follow-up cadence, so important. This is something that, again, big kind of knowledge gap piece that we see is you get the lead in and you give them a call or you send them an email and maybe you do one other thing and that's about it. Unfortunately or fortunately in B2B, 7 to 8 follow-ups is the key point.
Yeah.
That's what we've seen from a data perspective. So got to keep hitting them. So, we've set up for, like I said, the new service that we're releasing, it's an 11 follow-up or 11 touch follow-up, just to hit them, as many times as needed to get those risk assessment calls in. Do multi-channel. So email, LinkedIn message, calling is kind of the big 3. Make sure you're hitting them on all these different channels, show up where they are. And then lastly, just value-based messaging. Make sure that messaging that we did at the first point is feeding into all this risk assessment call or appointment setting pieces, because that's just going to enhance your brand, increase the conversion rates over to the calls.
Right.
I think that's everything on my side.
I've been typing like a madman here.
I know. I hear you. I hear the typing going on.
So I was doing that because I think this is some really great info, and I want to try and make sure that people have the ability to refer back to this. And like I said, when they reach out to us for this mind map, this can get them started, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe I'll share my screen here, and I'm just go through this with you.
Yep.
And go through my notes, Professor, and you can you tell me if I've kind of got the gist of it here. So I'll go ahead and zoom in so people can see a little bit more. Let's see that. Let's see here. Looks like my screen may have frozen. There you go. I'm going to save this, and then we'll come back to it.
Okay.
Hang on 1 second here. Yeah, this is what you risk when you're doing things live, right?
Right.
All right. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing and I'll reshare.
Okay.
All right. Well, while I'm doing that, if there was one thing that you had to, this is a lot for people watching this, I'm sure. If there's one thing you had to tell people to focus on to kind of start their journey, start thinking about how to do this, where would you tell them to start?
So we started our company over 4 years ago, specifically doing what we are today, just on the strategy side of things.
Yeah.
Because that was the biggest hole that we saw, especially in smaller businesses, SMBs
Okay.
across the board, is just do not jump into the campaign first. I'll
Right.
say that again. Do not jump into the campaign first, because we see so many companies just like, yeah, we need, we need blog posts, we need social, and we need some Google ads.
hmm
And let's just do
Yeah.
that. And they never think holistically and go through kind of the whole idea of the ICP and generating the messaging and saying, okay, we're trying to get to this goal of getting people on this assessment call, this risk assessment call. How
Right.
do we do
Right.
that? Let's circle back. So I would
Yeah.
say number one is, get your key stakeholders together. If that's just you, awesome. Sit down in a room and get a whiteboard going, whatever it may be, and type up kind of the strategy of what tactics are we going to use, but then roll it back to strategically. Who are we going after? What do we need
Yeah.
to say? What are the benefits of that? So,
Yeah, and I'll say that in the past that is it's a difficult thing to do, and it's
yeah,
because to define your ICP and then start thinking about their psychographics, like what are their pain points and like how do they think, and like, I don't know. You got
yeah,
to sit down, and it really takes some research to get to that point. And then
yeah,
I think, like you said, that feeds into developing content pillars and messaging pillars that actually waterfall through all of these steps, right? Now, as I'm going to talk about, even through to as you do continuous account management, right? That messaging should be there. It's the same message all the way through. And the only way you do that well is if you have an ICP, because if you're trying to do that for, 100-person SaaS company, and then a 1,000-person healthcare company, and then, somebody else, you're just never going to be able to do that process switching well, right? I don't want to take the words out of your mouth, but I want to make sure that I have it right.
yeah. No, you're exactly on point. You're exactly on
Okay.
point. Yeah. And we had one other question I see here, just because we were talking about this, and I think this
Yeah.
speaks into the messaging side of it from a LinkedIn user
hmm
here of what
hmm
was the S from FBBS, and that was just stories. It's coming up with those stories that align with your messaging in order to really, hit that engagement and move the needle.
Yeah. So we were, Mark, we were talking about before. You're like, Jesse, you sound really different today. And then Tim just commented and said, did you put the John Madden effect in your voice? I'm coming down with a cold. I feel terrible. Oh, that's what's going on. It's not a special effect. It's the I have its virus effect on my voice right now. So, yeah. So with that, let's walk through this. Let's walk through this mind map. I actually got to zoom in here.
All right, let's switch over.
All right, we could see it here. All right, so this is what we're just talking about, right? Start with one specific strategy and start with one specific offer and lead magnet for risk assessment. So right, we're creating one single test funnel, right? So this is our
Exactly.
funnel, and we're going to work on this, and then once we have this perfected, we're gonna go out maybe something else. But focusing again, I like your point here is focus and optimize based on that, because as you can see, it's a huge amount of work that goes into that one, and you're kind of just hopping in between. You're never going to be successful, right?
Yes, 100%.
Right. So based on that specific strategy, we're going to create the target audience, that strategy, looking at their firmographics, demographics, psychographics. I put some notes there. You can tell me if they don't look accurate to you. Then we look at the buying journey. So this is something I'm glad you brought this up, Mark, because this is again something that may be foreign to people. Go look up like a typical 6-step buying journey for customers, right? And the first step that Mark was talking about was getting people that understand they have a problem. Because the first step is actually getting them to see they have a problem. And I know you've all run across these clients, and you're like, "Hey, you need my help, but you don't even know it," right? Well, that might not be the warmest or lowest hanging fruit to go after. So focus on people who know they have a problem and who want to solve. That's where they're at in their buying journey. They're doing pain point searching content, and then use content and traffic CTAs and retargeted offers. I love the point about don't forget version tracking. And then the content, yeah, longer ROI. This can be, I don't know how you see this, but I feel like this can be a kind of a passion project, right? Because you have a bunch of passionate technical people at MSP who like to write about stuff like this. And so
Yeah.
if you have people that want to do it, This is something you can work on and kind of build that body of work over a long course of time, and then pepper in with some of these other techniques talking about.
Correct.
Yeah, and then the retargeted offers, LinkedIn being a good place to start. And I boiled that down a little bit from what you said, but I think if we're taking the TLDR version, right, let's start LinkedIn for our retargeted offers and go with that. Yeah. Again, we're talking about a risk assessment. We want to review our risk assessment collateral and even the stuff in our example risk assessments to have target keywords in there. And I don't think you may not have ever heard someone tell you to take a technical deliverable and do keyword assessment on it. But that's important, actually, because you're going to be putting that out there. You're going to be putting samples that out there, and that all feeds into your SEO. And I love that FBBS acronym.
Pulling that quantitative aspect and those scoring and the risk assessment pieces into the qualitative of the why and all that is so important.
Right.
You know, not to kind of quote Simon Sinek and all that, but the why is just so important of anything that you do. And that's, again, shift the technical into the qualitative, if you will.
Yep, exactly. So Tim says you have a dart neck. In comments though, that's hilarious. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to see how I sound. So the FBS, feature benefits, right? And then business outcomes, and then stories. So I have something I want to talk about here, and we talk about a great story I would always tell to clients when we were selling risk assessments is we had a client who bought our full security stack. We were doing VC services for them, and as part of that, we put in a process for their mergers and acquisitions where we did risk assessments on incoming companies, right? So this is a great risk assessment story. Feel free to steal it and use it. Somebody told me, right? But one merger they were doing, we found some things that didn't look great. And so we said, hey, before you should connect these systems to your own, we really think you need to get all your stuff in place, and we need to get eyes on the network. Well, literally the next week they got hit with ransomware. And so if we had connected those systems to theirs, there could have been untold fallout in the network. But because we hadn't, and we had already shipped out their SASE laptops with the secure endpoints on them, they literally took all their old laptops, their old server, put them in the closet for the forensic team, connect up to the new network, flip their new laptops on, and we're up and working. The only fault that they had was that some data was leaked from the old company, but not from the parent, right? So it was just, they were out of work maybe 24 hours, the people that were in that office. So if that's not a great story for ransomware and or for a risk assessment, how it can help you foretell those events, I don't know what is. So in any case, I wanted to drop it there.
No, that's great.
Yeah. And then, the landing page, just the design elements here I think is great. I don't need to go over that, but I think that was super helpful, and I'll keep that in mind for me. I picked up some things as you were talking about that. And then from the MQL to risk assessment calls. And, I think people, I don't know if they've heard the term XOps or RevOps, but those are things you should look into. I mean, really, and what I'm going to talk about today, really full stack operations, and operations start with marketing. So much of us, I think, in a technical domain, think of operations as managing technical work or project work, professional services, things like that. But it's really an end-to-end discipline for the entire business. And so you'll hear terms now like RevOps, obviously SecOps and TechOps, but ML Ops for machine learning. You'll hear CS Ops for customer service. You'll hear FinOps for financial, which we're not going to get into all those today, but I would encourage you to start taking a broader approach to your operation. So I think with that, we can go to my few slides here, and I'll talk through kind of my thoughts on that. So, traditional operations I just talked about, right? We kind of have our department, they have their processes, and I've seen this in actually companies that are, have really good process initiatives, and they do process really well, but everyone does their process a little bit differently. And so that's what I call the spiral of silos, right? Where each department is in their silo, their processes, and they're doing things really well their own way. But when it comes to the customer's journey through the system, That's where we lose money. So you see here, this can really be anything. It doesn't have to be an MQL or an SQL. It could be a ticket coming into the system. It could be a client complaint. It could be a number of things. But for today we're going to focus on an MQL coming in. So let's say an MQL comes in. You see it comes to the first silo, which is sales, right? So Mark was talking about it. You don't have a good follow-up cadence. You're not processing that out, and it's just kind of up to the person to go, remember, or maybe go look in the database. You're not keeping good metrics. Well, you're losing clients there. You have a leaky funnel there. So losing money, right? Because that MQL that you paid for, those search terms that you paid for are out the door. Your win rates aren't what they should because you're not starting your process there. Same thing, then you go into engineering to get a quote. All right, well, sales, let's say sales did their process perfectly, right? And we have a customer over there. Engineering then has to put the quote together, and maybe they don't have a good process handoff with sales. You know what? Let's say sometimes we didn't get all the information from sales, right? So on a lead, or we don't have a process, or sales wasn't given the process, right? So again, there's go backs. We have to go, did you ask the customer this? No, I did get this. The quote process takes too long. And as we know, time kills all deals. You lose money there. Then it moves through to onboarding and implementation. You actually do get the deal through, right? But it's not focused on your ICP. So it's 3 different types of clients, 3 different types of onboardings, 3 different set of regulatory concerns, all hitting the implementation team at the same time. Well, that's just a recipe to piss a client off, right? Because you dropped something or you didn't do it the same way. And then you're starting the relationship off at a bad point. And then finally going into, service and account management, same thing happens, right? We have on the back end, the client mentions, well, hey, I'd like to get this done, or we have this initiative. Well, that never makes it back to sales. There isn't a proper follow-up process that circles back into an SQL at that point, right? And doing the same types of processes that we're doing, or we were doing for an initial deal coming in. And so all those things spin money out of the system, and they result in leaky funnels, razor the margins, firefighting, and client churn. Bottom line, you're always worrying about client churn because you don't have an organized line of sight of operations through the entire business. So that leads me to what flip side of that, when we get this right and we have an operations, a line of sight of operations on the next slide here, what I call the powerhouse of profit, right? And so we see here where a lead comes in, it comes to sales. There's fine process for marketing, follow-up, sales, engineering templates, service templates, customer success templates, and account management templates. And then there's anytime something has to enter the system, it's bringing money into the system, not taking money out, because no matter where it hits the system, it's being passed through and handled the same way. So that results in higher win rates, better margins because we're doing things the same way, additional services because when a customer mentions something, there's a predictable way to get it back through the system, get them a quote quickly, implement that, and just basically we're the flywheel concept. We're getting happier customers, better margins, better employees, and everyone's happy. How do we do this?
And Jesse, just a question in relation to this. Do you guide your clients to kind of update SOPs a lot, or how do they keep this going?
Yeah, so let's look at that on the next page. Actually, that's kind of how do we do this? Everyone's like, yeah, it sounds great, Jesse. Well, how do we do this? Right. So I want to talk about just showing a couple templates that I've made for clients in the past. How do we do this for risk assessment? So the risk assessment playbook here, and you probably can't see it. So you'll see that there's a stepped process for, if you can zoom, Mark. Okay. So we have assessment, review, and deliver. So the risk assessment comes in, okay? We have a clear defined process of how we deliver it for the type of customer, the ICP, every time. Here's how we run the scans. Here's the questions we ask in the interview. Here's the things to look out for in the regulatory piece. And that all flows through down, do you see it? I have circled here, the recommendation to solutions matrix. So this is a matrix of phrases or code words that correspond to offerings. In that matrix, there's a set of not just offerings, but in those offerings, water flowed through to processes for quote calculators. Who should be involved in quoting it? What products we can quote? Um, all the things that we need to do to be able to deliver that quote in a very ubiquitous and modular manner while keeping it the same for everybody. No more piecemeal, right? And so you'll see here, we have a risk assessment that comes out with 78% high risk. We create a strategic roadmap that has those phrases on there. Again, speaking in the client's terms, right, Mark, that
Yes.
make them understand, here's what we're doing. So we're not giving, so here's the miss I see all the time. You give them a risk assessment and it has all these controls on it. You're like, okay, you got to fix this. And they go, I have no idea what this means. Right. So we have our recommendations to solution matrix that has these code phrases that are client speak, right? Again, if we have a good ICP, we have it in technical jargon or industry jargon that they understand, right? And it goes on our roadmap, an easy to follow roadmap that's here. You need to do these things. Here's your journey to getting secure. Here's the easy button, right? And then those code phrases correspond then through to our internal matrix and our operations pieces that touch sales, that touch engineering, that touch support, and that touch our recurring account management or VCSO services. So I just wanted to point out here just a snippet from this post-meeting follow-up, right? Here's the changes you should make. Here's what the salesperson should do. And then here's the sales process, going back to your thing about following up, Mark. So this all has to be processed out and this all feeds into each other, right? And I want to point something out is using templated documentation for this. So all facets of the organization begin to solve the problems the same way, right? So I know people are going to have different jobs, but we want to have our documentation look the same. Here's the easy button. I love it. Yeah, but that's it. I mean, it really is the easy button, and it's not, it's easy for them. For us, that's why we get paid, is because it's a ton of stuff. But the difficult part of our job is to put it into that fashion for a client. Can you go to the next slide? I just want to talk about kind of the recurring piece once we get through. Okay, so now they've approved the risk assessment, approved those changes. Now we're in maintenance mode. And I will harp on this all the time, is you should always sell VCSO services with even your lowest package. One of those easy buttons would be VCSO services. And if you'll see the second bullet down there, retain CISO and cybersecurity personnel via MSSP. That's code word for pay for our SOC as a service and our CISO services, right? So that's included with every quote. But here then we have these recurring strategic reviews where, again, we have that roadmap. We're gamifying it for the client. We have a list of completed items showing them all the things that we've done. And we also show them performance management. We show them all the different tickets that have come into the SOC. We show them their Office 365 secure score, how that's going up over time. We talk with them about the admins in their environment. We talk about the things we've done. We talked about what we've seen and we've stopped. In this particular example, we had a bunch of phishing emails that resulted in somebody clicking on one, getting their computer infected, but our security team responded. Nobody even really knew about it, but we pointed that out to them in the performance management review. So that's why as we do this, show value, we help push the security initiatives, and we talk about future planning to start generating then those SQLs like you talked about, Mark, saying, okay, here's the things that we want to focus on for next year and that we have a budget for next year. And then that gets pushed back into our sales process and goes through the same rinse and repeat cycle. And so that's a really high level. I'm talking fast because I'm trying to get through it all before we're done here today. But that's a really high level view of kind of how the XOps approach, where marketing leaves off to getting a risk assessment through the system, converted MRR, and then uncover additional opportunities with that client and providing value and keep them sticky along the way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What is the kind of, I'll say, conversion time or uplift for companies to go from what they're doing now to this setup?
So it can, I would say, anywhere from 3 months to a year to get there, right?
Okay.
Three, it depends on how much time they can commit, right, and how fast they can move. But because I have a lot of this templatized out and templated out, we could move quickly in about 3 months as long as they have resources to dedicate. Now, I will say that I know everyone's busy, and so typically I see that go to about 6 months before they can get to that point. But the nice thing is you can get low-hanging fruit and start getting wins, right? So if you talk about getting those risk assessments in and then having a well-designed risk assessment, you do that kind of just in time, that just in time delivery. So use the actual engagements to iterate and build your program, and just make sure that I'm going to provide accountability, saying, did you write that down and did you process it out, right? So yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I guess I want to drop this in a quick mind map. So if you want to flip over back to my screen here, we can do that. Or if people have questions, I want to say, this is something I can drop in and we can send out after the call. But if people have questions around any of this, we'll drop them in the chat and we'll try to get them answered for you. In the meantime, I'm going to start documenting it out. So here, first we want to have our offer matrix.
Yeah, and I think I said this at the beginning, but just to add on to Jesse's point, if you guys do have any questions on obviously the marketing or the ops side, and anything about this strategy or any other strategies, I hope I speak for both of us when I say please don't hesitate to DM, reach out to us, and have any questions, just hit us up and we'll try to answer them.
It's tough to type on a screen share on a live stream. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't need to sit here and have people watch me type, but I think I'll get this knocked out real quick, and then that way we can have it ready for people should they reach out. Mark, we can end a little bit early. Any other items you wanted to bring to people, or any other tidbits?
Just the idea that marketing overall, a lot of people struggle with it, especially if you are on the technical side of things. There's obviously technical aspects to marketing, but the kind of more qualitative, more touchy-feely, as I said before, aspects of marketing, I think, are really what in the cybersecurity or just IT realm as a whole is a big thing. It's something that is needed and something that we see as one of the biggest gaps. And so that's something that I would say, try to do that, try to take that step back. If you need outsourced help, there's people out there for you. But if you're trying to do this internally, just stop and try to shift that mindset over to thinking about who the clients are, what they're interested in, and trying to see it from that perspective. Take a look at your website, take a look at the offers you're putting together, and everything like that. And yeah, shift to that perspective and try to develop messaging and everything around that. Because that's honestly the biggest thing I see is companies on their site and on all their content, A, being too technical, and B, talking about themselves way too much as opposed to talking about who's reading it. So
Right. Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, and from my end, I think again, focus is your friend. And I know you said this, Mark, but having not only just a single ICP, but then a single offer magnet or lead magnet that you're focusing on, not abandoning that too quickly, right? So like you said, it could take months before you really start to see results. So, I've heard marketing is about consistency. And I think that is, don't get shiny object syndrome. We get it in tech all the time, but you really can't get it with marketing. And so that would maybe be my takeaway.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And we always have to guide, I'll say nicely, our clients away from that kind of shiny object syndrome, because, and I totally understand it. A lot of businesses that we work with are small businesses, and they're looking at that, their costs and everything like that, totally understood. And they're saying, well, we're spending money on, working with you from a marketing perspective on the ad campaigns, on the ad budget side of things. Where's that ROI? And they want it yesterday. as
Right.
every business does, but realize that that scalability factor does take some time. It depends on the channels, and I was specifically talking about kind of the content side of things. Content CTAs on that kind of 6-month range. Normally, it's a lot shorter if you're willing to put a little budget behind it. So that's kind of the nice scalability factor there. But yeah, I would say that's exactly right, what you said. And I don't know if you want to answer this, but
Yeah. Yep.
yes,
I replied, yeah, we'll make this, anyone that wants the mind map that we put together, I'll go ahead and drop my thoughts in there, and then DM either myself or Mark, and we'll be happy to provide it to you. So
sounds good. Jesse, thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for putting this together, and yeah, thanks for sharing your wisdom with the channel here. Appreciate it, Mark.
Absolutely.
Everyone, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.